old Black Bean Simpson. How's everyone doing tonight? 11/11. Make a wish. It's 8/7/2018. To be more precise, August 7th. So, I got an interesting story. Comes from all the way from China. That's right. All the way from China. So, it's a Vice story that pretty much my point of the reason why I'm doing this video. I just want to show that like Vice is doing a pretty improper job on making sure their stories are not risking the people that are essentially handing those stories over. You know, it's kind of like Assad, or not Assad. I'm just Julia. What was his name? Julia Assange. Julia Assange. Sorry, can't pronounce his name too well, but he's like down somewhere in Ecuador or whatever. I'm not quite sure where he's up, stuck in an embassy somewhere. The poor guy has been stuck in a closet or something like that. I heard, with no computer or anything for a while. But like that guy does not give up his sources wherever he gets it from, wherever, how, or whatever. He doesn't give it up. That is what a good, honest journalist does, which is why everybody hates him precisely right now, because he just doesn't want to hand up any story, especially the whole stuff with the 2016 election. That's how I mean, the left loved him all the way up till then. Seems like a whole lot of people are finding out it doesn't take much to stir the pot, and as soon as you're a 0.1% difference, you are essentially well, they just can't get along. It's almost impossible to get along. It's quite interesting. So this story comes from Shenzhen, China. This Shenzhen tech girl, Naomi Wu, she talks about her experience with Sarah Young and Jason Kobler. I think that's how you Kobler. I don't know how to say his last name. And then the Vice magazine. Like, I guess those three or those two people and the Vice magazine got together and tried to do this story, or eventually did the story, and she was kind of like the main headliner of the story. But later she realized that everything that she thought that Vice was going to do to protect her identity, essentially, and immunity, because of how China is really strict. Well, she has definitely some choice words, I'm sure. So she's like a die tech girl, and I'm not going to read through this this article. Essentially, I'm not going to read through any of these. But this is that Jason Kobler guy. I'm not showing any of these people to go attack or anything. Be nice, be civil. That is the best way to go about with dealing with any of these type of situations. Be the non-aggressive principles. You know, follow the UPB, universal preferable behaviors. Just, you know, be responsible on how you act when finding this information out. But that's this dude, and this is Sarah Young. This is the latest controversy. Chick has to do with that New York Times, where She tweeted a whole bunch of stuff from the past about, hey, well, it might have been even pretty recently, but I'm not certain on that. About just stuff against white people essentially. What's interesting is like so many people are like she shouldn't be fired, but it's interesting how if it was all about black people and she was white, or he was a white and it was a he, it wouldn't go over well. I mean, there's people who it's just it, it's rules for thee and not for thy. That's pretty much um, what these leftist people are very very becoming. It's it's quite evident. So essentially, this person who does this article, uh, I guess, it goes through and like proofreads and redoes what uh, Naomi Wu has to say about the Vice article. And the Vice article can be found here. And it's nice how they put her on the front thing. And again, she was worried about her immunity. She's a PRC citizen. All right, she was born and raised. A PRC citizen is a person from China that's natural born. All right, and People Republic of China. That is what PRC citizen stands for. And she wasn't wealthy. She doesn't come from a wealthy background. So she explains like within the article here that she only has a single passport. I'm not sure the significance on that because I have a passport that allows me to go anywhere that, to my best of my knowledge, to live in America. But maybe China like really restricts on how many places you get to go or something. I have no idea. I know they have this like new thing going on where like you get like point system, like a it's like a review point system based on like likes on how like people like criticize you or something. I it's a weird um I don't know, Orwellian like shit going on over there. But which is why she is like concerned about her safety. Which is it's upsetting to her that Vice would have not taken any of this into consideration, especially how easily this is known. I mean, I live on the other side of the planet, and I know that I would be putting people at risk by trying to get them to talk in public or getting them on video and then releasing that in public. I'd be putting them at jeopardy. I mean, there's enough evidence of that over the last couple decades on where things have been going. I actually got a buddy over there. So on a side note, I got a buddy over there who moved there almost 10 years ago, and or probably close, yeah, 10 years ago. And at first, I would hear from him here and there. Well, I'd say the last like 2 3 years, maybe 4 years, it's like almost damn near silent. It's once in a while. I and he doesn't get into much detail or anything, so I'm guessing that things are so blocked that he can't even get out to his family anymore or his friends in America, which is really really interesting because China is not talked about as being like a totalitarian um, kind of Nazi like like thing like well I would think what the Nazi would be like. Nazis would do all these weird like these. It's not even merit based because it's based on how people like you. So if you're more of a kiss ass, you'll get more points. If you uh, Yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting. It, and then I don't. There's just they're a really interesting culture. Let's just leave it at that point. Let's get back onto this. All right. So what's interesting um, is that she has one of the largest English language following, um, YouTube and Twitter, and China. It's like 20 some thousand or something. You could find it in this article, I believe. Yeah, I can't find it right now, but it's a big following, and like I said, you can't get out without out of China using internet. They have a firewall essentially around China, so only certain um, like government officials and stuff like that have the access to reach the outside world via via um, internet. Now people have figured out how to set up illegal VPNs, virtual private networks, so it allows these people. And I shouldn't even be really. I just realized I'm putting her name out there, but I think Vice has already did a total disservice. I don't know how I would do any much more of a disservice, to be honest. Uh, but I just hope people can learn and understand not to trust Vice and a lot of these really strong left-leaning um, um, like organizations, because they're they're not what they claim to be about. And I think this is a kind of a good example. They're only about particularly the story, not the consequences. They just want the clicks, the ad revenue. That's essentially what they want. So yeah, she has like one of the biggest followings over there. So that puts her at major risk because she's been doing this illegally. You know, so it's not like China's going to be like, well, now we found out that this Vice organization essentially doxed you, and now we know. Why won't they arrest her now? I mean, they literally put her straight up at risk of being subject to whatever the strict laws that are over there. Now, I believe following in laws, but I mean, when you're living in a totalitarian society that doesn't allow you to pretty much scratch your own ass, I I can understand when you want to scratch your own ass and want to get away with it. Like the internet to me is pretty much that now. It's the internet is a repository of knowledge that should be freely um, um, accessed. Not freely in the sense of value, money wise, monetary wise, but freely as in like anybody should have essentially access to it if they can afford it. That's where I'm at. And sadly, there's still countries who do not give these rights, which is why I claim that, and many others, America is the greatest country. This is a beautiful country, but it is being destroyed by these hateful, evil people. And these evil people are just they're destructive, and this is another good example of their destruction as they just walk among this earth. They just want to be vile with their lies and their twisting of things and essentially using and profiting off of misfortunes and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I get it to an extent, but when you're just not caring about where that source is, how that source gave that over when you're not concerned about safety because you're blatantly putting people's names out that are the source. I mean, that's, you know, it's a sad thing. Vice obviously doesn't understand the nature of China, or they just don't care. Um, it would be worse if they just don't understand it, because like it would be, equivalent to someone um, just randomly running around waving a knife, and if it hits people, whatever, they just don't real they don't think that it really does anything bad. It's something like that. It's the way I see how people don't understand when they're doing damage, doing destruction. It's bad. That's bad. Because people who do know that they're doing bad um, don't do the whole waving, running around, just hitting everything. Because eventually you're going to get a mass of people right away, sooner or later, get bringing you down, rather than just once in a while pick and prog, essentially, and then do that. So this happened about 9 months ago. This article is from August 5th. Her name's Sexy Cyborg. It's a damn shame that Vice just had no concern. I mean, this really just shows the lack of love for people on this side of the aisle. These people that are working within these organizations that are really left-leaning organizations. It just, I mean, how do you miss the fact that you just put her life at risk? I mean, she could go to prison for a long time, or just maybe a fine. I don't know. I don't know how strict the laws are, but I know she's at risk due to using illegal VPN just right there. And then because, she has that big of a following, and that she's been doing this for a number of years, a number of time, that could be a compound type of violations. I don't know. I know in America that would be kind of like a compound of violations if you've been doing things multiple times over the years. What's interesting, I was going through the motherboard article, which I recommend you to go to both Medium and Motherboard and scroll through and read them. They're kind of long, but it gives you at least a background of what I'm saying. Uh, but what I found on the Vice was kind of funny because it so the Great Firewall of China maybe blocked these sites, but Wu is a prolific user of Western social media, which she accesses using anti-censorship tools. I can't even say it right now. Visibility is my superpower. Her Twitter bio trumpet. Triumphant. Anyways, I definitely chuckled when I read all this because visibility is my superpower. Well, you just literally ripped her superpower away from her, Vice. You like came in like I. What's the newest uh, Justice League or whatever? I don't even know. I can't. I'm not. I don't follow that stuff that close. It's like that one dude who gets all the rings, and then the next thing you know, he's just like making people just disappear into dust. That's what pretty much Vice came. Vice came went over to Shenzhen, China, found this chick, and pretty much destroyed her. Destroyed her. At least her visibility. That is no longer there in China. Everybody, I mean, everybody knows, and their mama. Y'all have a good night.